Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 104 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 30 of A Clash of Kings, that's Arya 7.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter, and we're going to try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully, we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out our show notes. They'll provide you with some additional information that will be particularly useful if you're not reading along with us. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm good. A little tired. Long day. Drove down to visit my mother-in-law and played some golf and had some lunch and then drove back. So, beat. But otherwise, I'm good. How about you?
I have a good story for you, I think.
Oh, okay.
So
do tell.
On Friday, I had an eye test.
All right.
I don't know if you know this. That's a joke. You do know this, just to be clear. But perhaps all our listeners don't know this. But I sometimes, when I'm in an interaction with a person I don't know, I sometimes use my accent to try and endear myself to this person and get what I want.
Right, yep.
Particularly works with females.
Okay.
Females seem to like an English accent, and so I ham it up a little bit and I try to use it to my advantage. I'm not exploiting. I'm trying to delight this person so that they'll be on my side.
I get it, yes. I would do the same if I had such an accent, but unfortunately I don't.
So she took my glasses from me and put them in a little machine which reads the
like prescription?
Whatever it's called. The prescription, yeah. She reads the prescription
Okay.
by sort of shining light through the lens somehow.
Uh-huh.
And she was doing it. She said, "Are these progressives?" And I said, "Yeah, they're progressives." And so, where the focal length varies depending on which point you're looking at.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not old like me. You may not know this kind of thing, but it's like bifocals, but you can't see the line.
Right,
basically.
yes. I get the concept. I don't wear glasses, but I do get how that works.
Yeah. So basically she has to do it in two different points to get the two different prescriptions that make up the glasses, you see. That's why she was asking.
Yeah.
But she and I were not getting off on the foot that I usually get off with. Really not. I mean, it just really wasn't going very well at all. And then I said, well, while you're doing that, do you want to do my sunglasses too? And she said, well, I'm only doing this in case your prescription has changed. I said, yeah, but I might not have got the glasses and the sunglasses at the same time, and my prescription might have changed in between.
Right, yep, that's logical.
Now, I'll admit, in retelling the story, I've thought that through and perhaps said it a little bit clearer, but she looked at me like I was an idiot. She was like, do you really want me to do that? I was like, yeah.
That's why I
so
asked.
she scanned them, and she said, are these progressives? I said, I don't think so. And she went, they are. And then I said, and then she handed them back to me, and I said, were the prescriptions the same? And she said, I don't remember the first one.
So what was the point of all that?
So when I had my eye test, the ophthalmologist said, oh, your prescription's changed just a little bit, so it'd be good to get a new pair of glasses. I didn't have the heart to ask. I was like, all right.
If it's only been a little bit, I'll deal with it in the sunglasses.
So I still don't know if I need to replace my sunglasses or my glasses or both.
Right.
I was like, wow. This lady did not like me.
Did she also have an English accent? Because that probably would do it. She was totally not impressed. She was from Manchester as well. Just didn't know it.
Man.
Oh, man.
I mean, I dialed it up. I was like, all right, this lady needs real charm. So I dialed it up to 11. And
you're like, good day, governor.
Chimney.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, I remember Carson saying the accent works for a bit, but then it does wear off. The effect of the accent wears off, not the accent itself.
Yeah. The accent's wearing off too, but yes, definitely the effect.
Yes. Oh, man. Well, I have a story I'm going to tell you, but it might not make the airwaves. So, listeners, if you're hearing this, the story did make the airwaves. If not, I'm going to cut all this out.
This has been vetted and approved.
Yes. So Stacy and I were out to dinner with friends of ours last night, and before we went to to the restaurant we were eating at. We were at a place still in the same plaza that has like beer and wine and stuff like that. We were just sitting there, and we met them. They have just come out, and we were sitting out front, and Stacy went in to get a glass of wine, and as I have no use for any of this stuff, I just sat down with them at the table, and I was sitting there for a few minutes, and then I said, "Does it smell like dog crap out here?" and the husband of the couple's eyes got big like saucers, and the wife started bursting out laughing, and I was like, "What? Did someone step in dog crap?" And she was like, no, that's not what happened. And she tells me that before they came to meet us, they were at Home Depot, and the wife stayed out in the car, and the husband went in to Home Depot. But apparently he took a while, and he comes out and, gets in the car, and they're driving away, and she goes, "Did you crap in there?" And he confesses to yes, he did make a pit stop in the restroom there. And she's like, "'Cause it smells like crap in this car." So then they come meet us, and I say, "Does it smell like dog crap out here?" And so he's mortified that he's still smelling like crap. And then Stacy comes out, and we're just sitting there talking.
Oh, yeah. I know she's not going to be subtle about it.
We're just sitting there talking. And like 15 minutes go by, and she goes, "Does it stink out here?" She goes, "Does it stink out here?" And she goes, "It smells like..." I can't get this out. She goes, "It smells like rotten buttholes." And so now he's like cold sweat panic that he's smelling, that he still smells like crap. and so he's like, "What am I supposed to do?" We're like, "How could this still happen? Like, did you get it? You get it in your hair?" Oh man!
Did you make it to the bathroom in Home Depot?
Oh man! My eyes are watering. I'm laughing so hard. Whew. So, you can see why this story might not make it to the airwaves.
I gotta say, if I was him, I would definitely put the kibosh on this one.
This one's not getting through.
If it had a happy ending, and weirdly, he had trodden in dog crap. Alright, let's get down to business. How do we leave Arya Stark? Last we saw of Arya, she was at a pretty low ebb. She was a captive of Gregor Clegane and was watching helplessly as her fellow inmates were tortured and murdered by Clegane's evil henchmen. She was chanting a mantra to herself of the people she'd like to get revenge on, and was being marched to Harrenhal, losing the secret of her gender on the way, but adopting the name Weasel to keep her identity shrouded. For a future of indentured servitude under the tender management of Wheeze. The only way is up. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
Okay. So Arya's settling into life at Harrenhal. It's no picnic, but with meals daily, soap and water for bathing, and a roof over her head at night, it sure beats living rough. Her boss Wheeze works her hard, primarily scrubbing and cleaning the whaling tower, but that's nothing compared to walking miles every day. She sees Hot Pie fairly frequently, since he's in the kitchens and she's often chosen to be the food runner, but Gendry's at the forge, so she sees him much less frequently.
Lord Tywin seems to have it in mind to spruce up the rundown castle. Towers and the floors within that haven't been used in nearly 100 years are getting new life. Some think it's in preparation for Tywin to make it his permanent residence after the war ends. Arya's heard the rumours of the castle being haunted, but she's seen no signs. It's the people that are the real danger.
Wheeze is quick to hit and has a mean dog he likes to sick on people, earning him top spot on her nightly list of people she plans to kill. Arya feels like a mouse in this oversized castle. Like a mouse, people seem not to notice her presence, so she gets all the juicy gossip. She hears everything from who's sleeping with whom, to who pees the bed at night, to rumors of the High Kings and their war.
One day, the most unusual collection of men she's ever seen ride through the enormous main gate. Men dressed in all manner of odd clothes and styles, riding strange black and white striped horses. Wease says that they're called the Brave Companions, but behind their backs, some, brave souls, call them the Bloody Mummers, among other names. A fight breaks out their first night in the castle, leading to a stabbing and consequently 3 hangings. Before the Brave Companions ride out again, she's overheard one of them say that her brother, Robb, is in Riverrun. She doesn't know how to get there, but she knows it's a whole lot closer than Winterfell.
She concocts a plan for escape involving one of the 36 northern hostages taken during the battle on the Green Fork. Unfortunately, she doesn't know most of them, and she's clueless to sigils, having zoned out when Septim Ordain was teaching that lesson. But she does know one. Lord Serwyn's lands are close to Winterfell, and he made frequent trips to the Stark castle. He'd know her, and would be honor-bound to help the daughter of his liege lord. The problem is, he's bedridden with an injury. And when she sees his body being sewn up in cloth by the Silent Sisters, she gives up all hope of using her fellow Northmen as means of rescue.
Next to arrive on the scene is Sir Armory Lorch and his men. The sight of his manticore sigil fuels Arya with hate. But as the men ride by, it's the 3 at the back that take her attention. Jaqen H'ghar, Rorge and Biter seem to have escaped their burning cage and joined forces with the bad guys, thanks to Arya's heroics. A new hate stirs within her for these 3. Since she was playing the role of the boy Arry while she rode with the trio, she's not surprised when they don't recognise the girl Weasel she's playing these days.
Or so she thought. But that night, as she slept, Jaqen surprises her and tells her the Red God is owed 3 lives for the ones she saved that night. All she has to do is say the names and he'll do the rest. Over the next few days, Arya sees the faces of those on her list floating before her. Some are far away in King's Landing, while others are right here in Harrenhal. But can she trust Jaqen?
As luck would have it, Sir Gregor and his men return the next day.
Said nobody ever.
They're staying in the Wailing Tower and so fall into Arya and Weese's responsibility. When Weese sends Arya to gather the men's clothes that need mending, she overhears Chiswick telling a terrible story of Sir Gregor, Raff, Chiswick and others raping a young girl in a pub in front of her father and killing her brother. Chiswick thought his story was quite hilarious, and when she next sees Jaqen, she whispers Chiswick in his ear. 3 days later, Chiswick falls off a wall walk at night. Some think he was drunk, others think one of the ghosts of Harrenhal must have pushed him, but Arya knows better.
That's right. Because, she says, she is the ghost of Harrenhal.
Yes, that's right. She thinks of herself as a mouse, but also as a ghost of Harrenhal as
right.
Well. I think it's pretty exclusive membership, Arya.
It
just
is.
FYI.
I'll tell you what, I'm not splitting all these massive profits that we get 3 ways.
Right.
50-50 is enough.
Neither of us is claiming to be a Stark here.
Right. We don't have that Winterfell gold in our pockets. Yes, actually, that is the line that is the inspiration behind the name of our show. Unfortunately, it's also the line that's the inspiration behind the episode of A Game of Thrones called The Ghost in Harrenhal, which has really messed with our search engine optimization.
We didn't say we were good at this at the outset.
Right.
We've improved. Damage was done.
Yeah.
So life's pretty hard at Harrenhal. She's scrubbing the floors, running errands, dodging Weese's beatings and his dog. But she does eat and clean and has a roof over her head. So compared to the death march she was on, it's pretty good.
Yeah, no more foraging for bugs and worms. So, that's
right,
good.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Hot Pie, it's mentioned in the description, Hot Pie has it even better than Arya does because he's in the kitchens, which is where he belongs. But it's also where Arya was supposed to be if she had kept her mouth shut last chapter. But didn't work out that way, and so she's with Wease in the Wailing Tower.
Yeah. They mentioned that Shellawent only ever maintained 2 of the 5 towers, but part of the Tywin's host is so large, they've got 5 of the towers open now. And so the staff that she left behind when she fled is certainly not big enough to cope with all of that. So the Lannisters are basically foraging the lands around for servants, which only goes back to last time's pedantry, where they've got to stop killing people.
Right. I had the same thought. If you're in need of servants, quit killing the servants before they get to Harrenhal to become your servants.
Right.
Yes.
That's probably what would have happened to you anyway. Just, we just jumped the gun here.
Right. Yeah. But Wease seems to be as bad as we were afraid he was going to be at the end of last chapter, when it seemed like the women sent her to Wheeze as punishment for opening her mouth, saying she wanted to go to the stables instead of the kitchens. And Arya compares him with the Mountain, and she says, she thinks to herself that the Mountain swats men like flies, but most of the time he doesn't even notice that those flies are there, whereas Wheeze knows what you're doing, where you are, and he's sometimes even what you're thinking. And so that's why he made his way quickly to the top of her nightly prayer.
Yeah, Clegane just has bigger fish to fry, so he isn't swatting at the flies all the time. But Wheeze is a petty manager, and he just wants to swat the flies that he knows about.
Right.
And so he micromanages them to within an inch of their lives. But she is finding that being a servant's a good way to learn intel. So we get a sort of pretty good summary of the state of the realm, but with a few dubious parts. The big news for her is that Robb is at Riverrun. And the sort of big news for us is that Roose Bolton, despite losing a battle 100 miles north, has continued south with the remnants of the army to take the Ruby Ford, which seems to me to be like the most pointless battle of all time. I mean, you've gone up the road to fight this army, you defeat them, and then you let them continue to advance. It's like...
Right. Good point. Yeah.
It reminds me, though, I watched the Ken Burns documentary about the Vietnam War, and they were talking about the number of times that the Americans fought for a hill, won it, and then abandoned it.
And then gave it away.
Gave it away because they were like, what's the point of holding this hill? So they would then march down, and then a couple of days later it would be reoccupied, and they would have to fight for it again.
Man.
Sort of pointless battles going on.
Well, yeah, so she's gone from a sheep last episode, or last chapter, that is, to a mouse. She feels like she's, not just she is a mouse in this a castle that is built to inhuman proportions, but she thinks it even makes Gregor Clegane look small. So, so she gets a lot of intel because she's just a little girl wandering around this giant castle. People talk in front of her, and they don't really notice when she's there. So that works out well for that purpose. Yeah,
we did question about where she was going to head once Yoren was dead, but now she knows she's got family at Riverrun. That's definitely a new target for her.
Right.
But,
yeah. We had mentioned that, why would she head to Winterfell instead of Riverrun, being that Riverrun is so much closer? But we knew that she didn't know that she had her brother and her mother were at Riverrun at that time. But she did always know that she had family. Yeah, her grandfather, her uncle were at Riverrun. So it still would have made sense to consider going there, even if you didn't know that Robb was there.
Yeah. But then maybe that was, I mean, again, we're assuming she knows geography and she is only 10 years old. But maybe some of this was like, I'm going to head north. My ultimate destination is Winterfell. But what she really meant was, I'm going to find a friendly castle and announce I'm Arya Stark.
Sure.
Wherever that might be.
Yeah.
And Riverrun was always probably the one, but...
Right. Yeah, I mean, even if you took an adult and put them in a geographical location, they might not be able to, figure out exactly how to get to somewhere, even if you say it's slightly northwest of your current location,
Oh yeah, it's easy. That is easy to forget how difficult that is. I mean, I have a pretty good sense of direction, I feel. But if you drop me in the middle of a land where I'd been shown the maps a few times and told me, oh, just head 700 miles north and find your castle.
Right.
I'd be like, what?
At least with Winterfell, you could follow the King's Road. She knows the King's Road. True, she could find the King's Road again. She could follow it north. But, she's never been to Riverrun, so it's a lot more difficult than it seems when you actually think about it.
Yeah. So the other rumours she hears is that Tywin is planning to march on Riverrun, or also he's going to march south to Highgarden, or he's going to march south to King's Landing. And also he's going to send the brave companions and Gregor Clegane to destroy Roose Bolton again. This seems to be a common theme with Tywin's battles. He's always fighting the same people over and over again.
This
also,
next
he's
one,
going to marry.
yeah,
he's going to marry Lysa Arryn to win the Vale. But good luck with that.
Yes, exactly.
And then they get more and more dubious from that point. So he's got magic swords to kill Stark wargs. Wargs, if I think we've mentioned, are supposedly animals who are occupied by a human spirit in some way.
Think kind of like Bran in Summer.
Yeah. And he's also going to make peace with Cat to free Jaime, which actually makes a certain amount of sense.
Right.
Whether that,
of all those, that one would be the one we would hope for, but.
Yeah.
Although I'd like to see him marry Lysa Arryn. That would be an interesting match right there.
Yes.
But, with all those thoughts in mind, all the different options that he could choose from, some of them are sillier than others, but there are a lot of the options that he has available to him. You could get the sense that he really does have enemies all around him. He's got Roose to the north, which, Roose isn't enough force to defend themselves against a full-on attack from Tywin, but they could certainly cause problems for him. There's still several thousand members strong up there.
Right, and the Ruby Ford is a strategically important point along the King's Road.
Right.
I mean, that's a point that you can defend against a larger force.
Right.
So it was foolish to let him have it if you have to march north again. But that does seem like the least likely direction for him to head.
Yes. The only reason he'd head north is if he decided to take the fight to the northern kingdom, Yes. He's going to take on Bran and Rickon. But they'd have to get past Moat Cailin first. But then you've got Robb sitting to the west, and that's problematic, and the Baratheons are to the south. And unless he does marry Lysa Arryn, he can't march east into the Vale because he'll hit the Bloody Gate and get stuck there. So, yeah.
And we're hopeful that the Baratheons eventually will attack King's Landing once they've stopped squabbling amongst themselves.
Right.
So that he would be forced to react to that. So whichever way he goes, there's enemies for sure. Right.
And we know that Theon mentioned that Robb is planning on marching toward Casterly Rock, Lannisport area. And, that would give Tywin some breathing room if Tywin knows that that's happening. At least there's no one to the west of him at this moment. And if he can swallow the potential loss of that.
That's the thing, though. Yeah, does it give him breathing room, or does it actually change his calculus again? He's like, oh, God, I really have to go west now.
Right, yes, absolutely. That is a very possible reaction. That's my homeland. I've got to go,
Right.
King's Landing is going to have to fend for themselves for a while. I've got to go protect our homeland.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
So the talk in the castle is that Tywin is restoring Harrenhal to take as a new seat once the war is done. I'm skeptical about that. I think that feels like an extrapolation. I mean, basically, you've got a force that's way too big for the two towers. You need to expand the livable areas. And Tywin's there now. He wants it to be comfortable,
Yes.
He's the Lord of Casterly Rock.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and if he is, someone might want to tell Littlefinger, because I think Littlefinger thinks he's now the Lord of Harrenhal.
One of the beauties of the lack of fast communication in the realm is that you can promise Harrenhal to 4 or 5 different people at once.
It's going to take a while before any of them figure out. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like you said, he's a Lord of Casterly Rock. He's the Warden of the West. He's not just some minor lord, so he wants, he's a proud guy, and so it probably is in his nature to fix up this mess of a castle while they're there. Might as well fix it up and make it more suitable for his men.
Yep.
Plus, it also, I know that we mostly hear about captives, being the servants, but I'm sure there's plenty of tasks that his men are doing as well, and keeping them busy, like we were talking about with Robb a while ago, is it prevents them from starting to think about harvest and hearth and thinking, what am I doing here? Winter is coming. I've got crops in the field I need to tend to.
Right, and in particular, if you're living in squalor,
right,
and winter is coming, you're like, well, I would rather go home, to be honest. But if you fix it up so that it's actually kind of a nice place to be, then that's a little bit better,
Yes, yeah.
You're busy fixing it up, and you're not living in quite the same squalor.
Yeah. And one other interesting thing we get in this section of the chapter is that we find out that the Went's black sigil, House Went, their sigil is a black bat, was... its inspiration was the infestation of huge black bats in the top story of the Wailing Tower. So,
there you go.
I did not know that ahead of time.
Other gossip that Arya hears is about the invincibility of Beric Dondarrion. His reputation grows all the time. I can't decide if this comes from multiple people are claiming to be Beric Dondarrion,
right?
Which seems like a very foolish idea since everybody seems to want him dead.
Yeah.
Or way too many of Tywin's men are flat out liars about who they've killed on their escapades. I killed Beric Dondarrion.
Yeah.
No, I killed Beric Dondarrion.
Yeah.
Or there is something miraculous and magical about his escapes, or some combination of these three things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it would be a really bad idea to pretend to be Beric Dondarrion. Yoren and his men were pretty much killed because Yoren's Night's Watch black cloak could possibly have been Beric Dondarrion's cloak.
Although your name might have reached a point now where you wouldn't have to put your hand in your own pocket in the pub.
Right.
Hey, I've got a terrible thirst and my name's Beric Dondarrion. Oh, sir, on the house.
Good point. Might be worth it at times.
Armory Launch comes riding through and you're like, yeah, that's him right there.
Yeah, so Arya heard a woman say that Armory Lorch rode around the God's Eye chasing Beric Dondarrion and slaying rebels, and Arya thought, we weren't rebels. We were the Night's Watch, and we take no sides, and he slaughtered us. So
yeah, I've noticed that history suggests that the winning side, well, whichever side, will always refer to people who are trying to sort of like work against them as rebels or terrorists or something like that. What they mean is people who disagree with me.
Right. History is written from the perspective of the winners in most cases. Yeah. Yeah. But Beric Dondarrion's out doing his thing, harassing villains and criminals, and from the shadows when they least expect it, like a medieval Batman.
But he definitely seems to be getting under the skin of the Lannisters.
Yeah,
it's causing... Perhaps the multiple claims of who were the one to kill Beric Dondarrion led to the fight, which led to 4 deaths, where we know that manpower is precious, or at least ought to be precious to the Lannisters.
Yeah.
Beric Dondarrion can add those notches to his belt as well.
Right.
I got rid of those 4 as well.
He's killing men by reputation alone. He doesn't even have to do anything anymore. Yeah.
Arya does think at one point in this chapter about telling Tywin who she is. She assumes that he wouldn't believe her, but
I think you have the right of it. Last chapter, I think it was last chapter, right? Yes.
Yeah,
I proposed it last chapter. Yeah, I think you had the right of it.
That basically, it's her last card.
Right.
Don't play that card until you have absolutely no cards left to play. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. You
keep that under wraps unless your life is in imminent danger. Then you play that card.
Oh yeah, play it loudly and vociferously. So I liked her plan of trying to get a message to Lord Cerwyn, because she knew he was someone he could trust. She knew there were Northern Lords there, but she doesn't know. If I was a disreputable Northern Lord and Arya Stark came up to me and said, "Hey, don't tell anyone, but I'm Arya Stark. Could you get a message to my brother?" I might be tempted to say, Tywin Lannister, I have some news for you.
Right.
Which might buy my freedom.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's definitely a risk there.
She was smart not to tell just the first Northern Lord she saw. Choosing one that she knows and trusts is a good idea. Unfortunately, he died before she could get him the message, so that's kind of out the window. But I did think it was good, because there's mention in the chapter that some of them are getting ransomed out of there, so they're not all some of them are going back to the north, and they could take news back with them.
Exactly, yes. It seems like when Medgar Serwyn died, she gave up on the idea of contact with the other northern captives as, an opportunity to get out, because she doesn't know any of the other ones. So she doesn't know, Willis Manderly is an upstanding lordling. He would protect me. She doesn't know who is and isn't.
Instead, she sees him talking to Tywin Lannister and decides she can't trust him.
Right, which is, the optics aren't good there. If I saw that particular lord walking around and talking with Tywin Lannister, I'd be like, not that guy.
Right.
But just a quick reminder of who this Lord Serwyn is. It's like I just said, is Medgar Serwyn. And if you remember back to the chapter when all of Robb's bannermen were showing up at the castle, it was a Bran chapter. He brought his daughter Janelle with him. He said it was to cook for him and ride at his side, but Theon figured his plans were to get her into Robb's bed. We have no word on her. She, it's possible she
probably went home. Yes, maybe
she didn't make the trek all the way south. But now Clay, who is now the Lord of Castle Serwyn, he was Bran's friend, and he was the one when he arrived for the harvest feast. He mentioned Jaime and Cersei incest, creating Joffrey, and the mention of Jaime sent Bran into a tizzy, and that's the night that he had the dream when he got his third eye. So that's the background on them.
Yeah. The other captives that get mentioned, like we said, Willis Manderly is one. There are 4 Freys, 3 actual Freys and 1 bastard. They get ransomed with a chest of gold. Jared, Hostine, Danwell, and Ronell Rivers.
Yeah, their names don't actually get mentioned in the chapter, but that's who they are anyway.
Okay.
I found it interesting that Walder Frey cut a deal separate from Robb. And I wonder if the Northern Command is aware of this ransoming that's going on here for the Freys, because no one else leaves, just those 4 Freys and the bastard Frey. So I find that curious.
Yeah. I mean, again, talking about optics, it's not great when all those other captives stay put, but the 4 Freys get marched out of there. It's like, well, why? I mean, presumably Walder has some kind of, I pay ransoms, that's what I do, and people understand it, but it doesn't look great, does it?
No. We know Cat convinced Robb to leave Helman Tallheart and some of the Northmen at the Twins to keep an eye on Walder. So maybe if these 4 show up, maybe he'll send a raven to Robb saying, hey, just so you know, 4 captive Freys showed up. So, just know that's happening. I don't know the details, but know that's happening. Right. But what are the details? Is it just the gold, or is there intel on Robb's plans involved as well? You'd think Tywin would want more than just gold, although he probably needs the gold right now as he's cut off from the Casterly Rock.
He's driving up the price of bread all the time with the burning of the fields.
That's true, yes. He's causing his own inflation, and he can't get to his bank account.
Yeah. So all of these people that are involved here got mentioned in Tyrion's terms that he was sending back to Robb with Cleos Frey.
Yeah, right. So Tyrion's terms to Cleos were Willis Manderly and Harry Stark for Willem Lannister. Willem is Lancel's younger brother, and Medgar Serwyn and Donnell Locke for Tion Frey, which is Jenna Lannister Frey's son. And it's good, probably good that they don't accept that deal, because they might get Medgar Serwyn back, but he's not going to be of much use to them at this point.
Good point.
But then there's mention of a fierce bearded young man who walks the battlements alone in a black cloak with white suns, and she doesn't know who that is, but we do. That's Harrenhal Karstark. His dad is the very angry, disgruntled lord in Robb's camp, whose 2 sons were killed by Jaime in the Whispering Wood. So he's the only son that Rickard Karstark has left.
Yeah. So Arya sees two of the three main raiding parties arriving back. The Bloody Mummers, or the Brave Companions, are a bizarre-looking bunch who she's warned to stay away from. They'll be staying in the Widow's Tower, so she wouldn't actually have to be dealing with them. There are sellswords from ASOS. You're going to provide some more info in the background?
Yes, yeah, I would do that.
Yep, so they were the third group that Tywin sent out in addition to Armory Lorch and Gregor Clegane.
Yeah, no, we don't know this, but I can tell you that they were brought over from Essos by Tywin to help fight, I guess, ultimately.
To help fight this,
and,
right.
They're the third group that Tywin sent raiding back when he was with Tyrion. He sent 3 groups out with, I think, 300 horses each, and we've met Gregor Clegane, we've met Armory Lorch, and now Vargo Hoat is the head of the Bloody Mummers, and now we meet them.
They get their name, the Bloody Mummers, from their brutality and their outlandish appearance. They look like an acting troupe of some sort because they're so bizarrely dressed.
Exactly. So Arya thinks that she sees Tywin from time to time, not up close, but she thinks that his face reminds her of her father's, and that's despite the fact that they look nothing alike. And then she realizes it's because they both have a lord's face. And Cat she's remembering this story of Cat telling Ned to put on his lord's face and go deal with an issue. And she said she thinks that Ned laughed at that when Cat said, go put on your lord face. But as she thinks, Tywin looks like he's never laughed. And that's not entirely true. In A World of Ice and Fire, Grand Maester Pycelle, wrote to the Citadel that all Tywin smiles belong to Joanna. And he said, I do avow that I observed her make him laugh, not once, but upon 3 separate occasions. And he also wrote, again to the Citadel, that with her death, during the birth of Tyrion, the joy went out of Tywin Lannister. So maybe those were the last times that he laughed. But he has laughed in the past.
The second group to come back is Armory Lorch's group, with 3 or around 2.8 familiar faces. Did you not know that was coming? I wondered if you knew that was coming.
I did see it, but I forgot until you said it right now. So it's because Rorg is missing a nose, by the way.
Missing a nose, yes. So Jaqen's gaze passes over her and doesn't seem to see her, but he certainly did. So Armory Lorch, remember, was the knight who ordered Yoren and the Night's Watch recruits killed at the Holdfast. When Jaqen does confront Arya, he says, a boy becomes a girl, and she said, I was always a girl, but he acts like he already knew.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I felt his words were a man. She says, I was always a girl, and he says, a man sees, a man knows, which isn't outright saying, I always knew you were a girl, but it seems like that's what he was implying there, that he always knew.
Yeah. So Jaqen's rationale for granting her the 3 deaths is that her actions robbed the Red God of 3 deaths that were coming his way, which certainly is true. Had she not thrown them the axe, they were going to burn to death.
Right.
So he's going to make amends for this by killing 3 for her. This is utter serendipity, because she actually has a list of people she would like to see dead. So can you imagine a more perfect set of wishes?
It would be like early December, someone saying, hey, I want to buy you some Christmas gifts. Do you have a list?
Exactly.
So we were talking during that chapter where the fight broke out in that holdfast where Armory Lorch's men killed Yoren and most of the Night's Watch recruits, that Jaqen asked if it was Red War, and you, Simon, thought that it just meant Bloody War, and I thought it was an odd phrase and wondered if it was a reference to the Red God R'hllor, and here he specifically mentions the Red God, so I think you might be using your superpower of remembering stuff, to be honest. I did know this was coming. I did remember that this was coming. That's why I don't know if you very well may be right, and he just meant Bloody War when he said Red War. Okay. But I thought I would throw in the possibility that maybe this was some kind of like foreshadowing into this whole situation here.
So Arya's been granted 3 wishes. I would like to say to her that she needs to think a little bit more carefully about her remaining 2. I mean, Chiswick is awful and horrible, but he is a teeny tiny little fish.
Small potatoes.
I mean, listen to the story he tells. It's about Gregor Clegane raping a girl and being awful to her father and killing her brother. The fact that Chiswick's telling it, yes, he's awful too. But Clegane is right there.
Right.
Choose him.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure all of us reading it went, no, not Chiswick. I mean, you choose Tywin Lannister and the war is all but over,
Right, but
at least the Lannister
but he's
part.
not on, but he is not on her list, right?
He's not,
Tywin.
but he's in that castle, so,
Right.
And she thinks to herself, I'm a Stark and we're at war with the Lannisters, so I should kill as many Lannisters as I can. But, then she didn't. My thought was maybe that she thinks to herself she doesn't necessarily trust Jaqen about this plan that he's offering here. So maybe she chose Chiswick as kind of like a test, like do something small, see if it works. Now we're going to go for Tywin Lannister. Oh, wow, that actually worked. Okay, now we're going to take out Gregor and Tywin.
Yeah,
maybe.
I can see that. Yeah.
But
hopefully she thinks these last 2 through a bit more carefully.
Do you want to quickly go through this story, because we haven't really mentioned it?
What Chiswick tells?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, just to give you jump forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but Chiswick's story is that on the way back from the
Hands tourney,
when Gregor Clegane lost to the Knight of Flowers,
Loras
whose name is
Tyrell.
escaping me, Loras Tyrell, for the very same. Clegane is in such a foul mood that in an inn he's sulking, and the innkeeper is nervous and he's talking too much, and somebody touches his daughter and she runs away, and the innkeeper, rather than saying just stay in the back, don't come back out here, he confronts them, and so Clegane tells him to bring the girl back out, and then Clegane rapes her and pays for it, and then lets his men rape her, and then murders her brother, and then demands change from the father.
Right. Yeah.
So,
terrible.
yeah.
Terrible story. Yeah. But one thing the innkeep comes out, and he goes to Gregor Clegane, and he says it's because he's an anointed knight, he wants protection from this anointed knight. And it made me think about the Hound.
Clegane.
Yeah, about the Hound,
Right.
and why he's so against knights and their vows and blessings and ointments and all that. Because, you see, this is exactly what he's talking about. This is an anointed knight who said all the vows of protecting the helpless and be a good, upstanding citizen, and he's doing the exact opposite. So you can see why.
But I noticed
he's not...
you put in the notes here that you think this is the worst display of violence and cruelty in the story so far. But I wonder if the story of Tyrion's wife Tysha might be on a par.
You're right. It is. We
Because
get
there's
less
a
details about it. So.
We do, but there's a psychological component to that one, which makes it really particularly cruel, I think.
Yes,
that one.
you're right.
They're
Good
both
point.
awful. Okay.
By the way, the Knight of Pansies, as Chiswick calls him, and the bugger trick he played was when, during their final joust, Sir Loras rides a mare in heat against Gregor and his big war horse, and it sends his war horse into antics.
Makes him less controllable.
Yes, it does, exactly. And that's the trick he's referring to.
Yeah. But interestingly, he called him the Knight of Pansies and called it a bugger trick. These are both words you would associate with homosexuality, which makes you think, is he casting a slur towards Loras Tyrell?
Right. I had not thought of that. Yeah.
How's your feelings about the whole morality of this? I mean, Arya just ordered someone's execution.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. That's true. I hadn't thought about it from a moral standpoint.
Well, let me tell you my position.
Yes, please do.
You know me. I'm a bleeding heart. I'm anti-death penalty. I think it's daft, and I'm totally for it. I have zero qualms about this.
Okay, good. We're on the same page then.
This is a different world. These guys need to be killed for their antics. So yes, you, Arya. Just aim higher.
Yes, exactly. It's tough that a 10-year-old is in a position where she has to do something like this, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Aim higher. That's the message there. So
give me some background.
So you wanted to give some background that's mentioned in the chapter about Harrenhal.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. So Arya doesn't know what King Harrenhal meant to name the 5 towers of Harrenhal because the names were lost, I guess. But they are now known as the Tower of Dread, the Widow's Tower, the Wailing Tower, the Tower of Ghosts, and the King's Pyre Tower. She works in the Wailing Tower.
Right.
Lady Shello Went only occupied small sections of 2 towers, and Lannisters have had to forage for servants to make more of Harrenhal habitable. Harrenhal covers 3 times the area of Winterfell. Its stables hold 1,000 horses, the Godswood covers 20 acres, the kitchen is as large as Winterfell's Great Hall, and the Hall of the 100 Hearths could handle Tywin's entire host. So,
even though it doesn't actually have 100 hearths.
No, she said like 30-something.
33 to 35 is her two different counts.
Yeah. Some claim the ghosts of Harren the Black and his sons occupy the Wailing Tower, but Arya is aware of a little bit of history that they actually died in the King's Pyre Tower. The Wailing is simply the wind.
Right. Yeah. Cool background on our home castle, our home territory here. Yeah. So here's a little bit of background on the Brave Companions. So Weese's friend, when they're watching the Brave Companions march in through the gate, he refers to them as footmen, and we'll find out later why they're called that. I'm not going to tell you about that. We'll find that out in the story. But he also calls them the toes of the goat, and that is because the Brave Companion's sigil is a black goat with bloody horns, and it's lifting one hoof. So that's where they got the nickname the toes of the goat from. Now, there's a description. I'm going to go through each piece of the description and mention who they are. Some's obvious, some are less obvious. Now, Vargo Hoat, who is the leader, he is from Qohor, which is the easternmost of the free cities of Essos, and that's why the sigil is the black goat, because the black goat is a Qohoric god. I mentioned that actually in Ned 15 of A Game of Thrones background. That was when he was in the black cells talking to Varys, and he'd say, I'd rather marry the black goat of Qohor than work with Littlefinger.
Coincidentally, I am on a listen through of our episodes, and that's the episode I just listened to.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, but you know what's very funny about that is that if you remember what actually happened when we got to that part of the back of the nose, for a joke, I literally read what you'd written. Because you always write in this gibberish shorthand. And I read, on Wednesday he be the goat. I don't remember, something like that. I said, on Wednesday he be the goat. And it cracked you up so badly, it took you a while to get through the rest of it. And we never explained. We never explained what was funny about it. We never said that Simon is reading what's written down.
That was like probably... Ned 15, that was probably like 40 chapters ago.
Yeah.
That's what it was about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so that's the deal with Vargo Hoat. Then the next group of men that are mentioned are copper men with bells in their hair. And of course, those are the Dothraki.
So some of them can cross the sea.
Yeah, that's right. And there's Lancers on Zorses. Now, we know the Jogos Nai in eastern Essos breed Zorses, which are basically zebras. Yes, the Jogos Nai have pointy heads. Yes, Simon was mimicking that on camera here. So Zorses are basically zebras. They seem like zebras anyway. They might be a little bigger and more horse-like. But Dany saw in the eastern market of Vaes Dothrock, she saw some of these Zorses of the Jogos Nai. But Vargo Hoat is also riding a Zor, so that doesn't necessarily mean that these Lancers are Jogos. Now, you'd think if they were, Arya might mention, those guys have pointy heads.
Those guys, yeah, you'd notice that. I think.
Yes, you wouldn't just
Pretty
notice
much
the lances.
immediately,
Unless she's confused the lances with the pointy heads. They don't actually have lances. Now, the next one, I don't know. Bowman with powdered cheeks. I do not know who that is. I really don't. So if anybody does, let us know, because I got nothing.
It's an odd company. They have all sorts. I guess we don't.
Yeah.
I need to get to the bottom of all of them.
Then we have squat hairy men with shaggy shields. Those are Ibbenese from Ibben, which is an island in the north of Essos in the Shivering Sea. And then we get brown-skinned men in feathers. They're the Summer Islanders. Swordsmen with fantastic forked beards dyed in green, purple, and silver. Those are from Tyrosh. Yeah.
Like Illyrio Mopatis. He has the forked beard.
He does. Right, yeah. I think he does, yeah. Tyrosh is a free city of Essos. And then we get spearmen with colored scars that cover their cheeks. Now, I think what she's seeing as colored scars are actually tattoos. Because in Volantis, slaves, it's customary to tattoo slaves' faces. Like Patchface, the Shireen's fool. He's from Volantis, and he has tattoos on his face. That's why they call him Patchface. So I think she's thinking of those scars. What she's seeing as scars are actually tattoos. And then finally we get Mirish crossbowmen, pale Lyseni, and dark Dornishmen. I don't believe those need any extra description.
All right, so comparison with the television show, this is a fairly big departure. At this point in the TV show, Arya is made Lord Tywin's cupbearer. So the rumours that she hears are not from just overhearing randos giving,
Right.
She's actually hearing the intel that Tywin Lannister is hearing.
Now, does Tywin mention the magic swords for killing the Stark wards?
He doesn't. Nor the plan to marry Lysa Arryn. So Tywin puts a stop to the senseless killing of prisoners, very much in the nick of time for Gendry. The scenes with Jaqen are back to back. He doesn't wait for that night to tell her. He walks past her the first time without reacting, but then you see her continue, and then he catches her up and has the same conversation about the three deaths. Right. But in the TV show, she immediately names the tickler, the guy who was doing the torturing, rather than Chiswick, who's barely a character in the TV show. She names the tickler, the guy who was doing the torturing for Gregor Clegane. And he's found dead with his head on backwards in the very next scene. So he doesn't hang around. Arya sees Jaqen nearby and he signals one with a finger. So she knows
Which finger?
Who she knows who it was that did it. And Arya, I have to say, is just a little bit impressed. And also she's like, I could use this.
I could get used to this thing.
Yeah. So pedantry. Again, this one's not really pedantry because it's just a character decision, but Tywin puts 3 men to death for the fight over who did not kill Beric Dondarrion.
Right.
He can ill afford to lose men. I mean, I know you've got to keep discipline in an army, and sometimes that needs to be rough, but he could not afford to stringing people up.
Bust them down to servants or something, keep the manpower intact.
Right, yes.
Yeah. And this is not pedantry. I don't think this is pedantry, but it did cause me to think about it. So the deal that Jaqen makes with Arya is because the reason he gives is because the Red God was owed 3 deaths for the 3 that she saved, Rorg, Jaqen, and Biter, in the fire. And I thought, does that mean every time that you save someone, you then have to go out and kill someone?
That's a good point. Yeah, what constitutes?
Right.
Do you have to save them from certain death? I mean, because that's pretty certain death.
It was.
Being in a fire, chained up.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's it. Maybe they have to be just about dead, and you save them, then you got to go out and kill somebody.
And maybe it has to be a Red Priest of Relor.
Maybe one has to be involved.
Because if it was just Roach, Biter, and their buddy Fred, they probably wouldn't have come back and offered her 3 deaths.
No, we don't know if Jaqen is actually a Red Priest of R'hllor. We just know now he's mentioned the Red God. So.
Right, okay. But then that does beg the question, okay, if Jaqen had witnessed Roach, Biter, and Fred being saved, would he have made her the same offer? Or was it just because he was one of the 3?
He was one of the 3. I wondered if maybe this is just the reason he was giving her, that why he was doing it, make it seem more important than just...
Oh, I see. He just owed her a favor.
Yeah, just like, you saved us 3, I'm going to do a favor for you. I'm going to kill 3 people because I know there's some people you don't like around here.
I wonder, so he seems to be sort of like, big on the Red God and sort of like death sort of aspect of it. Had he been a bystander, and it was Roach, Biter, and their buddy Fred, and she threw the axe towards them to save them, would he have batted it out of the sky? Not on my watch!
Those are for the Red God.
I owe you nothing.
Possibly.
News and notes. Do you have a review for us?
I do have a review for us. Unfortunately, I don't have any notes. There was no news or notes worthy, so I couldn't find anything interesting to tell you all about. But we do have a review. It's a short one. This is from Noah, and this is on Apple Podcasts, and the subject is amazing. I've listened to every episode. These guys have great chemistry. I can't wait for the next episode.
Well, thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Noah.
That was very kind of you.
Yeah.
Man, people
great.
mention chemistry.
I know.
I feel awkward about this. I feel a little self-conscious. All right, let's conclude. So, Arya is definitely in slightly better shape than the last couple of chapters. She's fed, she's got a roof over her head, but her lot is pretty miserable. But she now does have 2/3 of a superpower still.
She does. That's right. She seems to be enjoying that.
Right.
Yeah, she's made an ally in Jaqen H'ghar, or at least a temporary ally anyway.
Yeah. I'm curious whether Biter and Roach might feel they owe her a debt too. I'm pretty sure they didn't notice her. Jaqen is the only one who would have noticed her. But if they did come across her, would they be like, hey, you saved our life?
Right. They don't seem like the sentimental type. But they do...
No, they don't.
They do still seem to stick with Jaqen. The 3 of them were riding together. And then when Arya went to whisper Chiswick into Jaqen's ear, it was Rorg sitting next to him, drunk and not paying any attention. So they do seem to hang out. So maybe he has some influence and says, hey, you owe her too. So
interesting.
I don't know. Yeah. But you're right. I don't know. I don't know if they feel like they owe her a debt or not.
Yeah. She knows now that she only has to get as far as Riverrun, and that has to give her some hope.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot closer than Winterfell.
It's certainly a lot closer than Winterfell. But just getting out of the castle is easier said than done, of course.
Yeah. But the castle is so huge that it's going to be impossible to watch every square inch, so you could sneak out of some exit. I mean, there must be comings and goings all the time.
Right. You would think
feels like
a little girl like that could find a way to just get out. No, she might get picked back up again, but
Right. And Weasel would be unhappy with her,
Right, yes. But yeah, right. I mean, you'd think there's a way, especially a castle that large, that there's a way that a little girl like that could sneak out if she wanted to.
But fair dues to Arya, it's probably worth getting rested and getting fed for a while, even if you're working hard, compared to going back to foraging for food. I mean, that's
absolutely
pretty rough.
And even if she escaped, like we were talking about earlier, she might have no clue how to get to Riverrun. She might just run around the forest till she gets caught again.
Yeah.
But not all is golden with Tywin and his army. I mean, we've seen the infighting between the groups, and even the rank and file seem to be losing hope a little bit. Arya hears one lordling say that Joff's got no army but the Gold Cloaks, and he's ruled by a eunuch, a dwarf, and a woman, and what good are they in the battle? He was wondering how long is he going to possibly be able to keep the Red Keep in the first place? Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like Harrenhal is a powder keg like King's Landing seems to be, but
right.
Most of the servants are slaves or captives. They can't really organise or rebel, but they are more incentivized to do so. I mean,
Right.
the people of King's Landing might want to chop Joffrey's head off, but they're just hungry, and that doesn't necessarily feed you. I mean, you could eat Joffrey, I suppose, but that wouldn't feed you for very long.
Right.
Whereas here, the servants and the staff would be very happy to get rid of the people. I mean, what's making them miserable is the presence of the Lannisters.
Yes.
So a rebellion against the Lannisters would absolutely... Now, would you get any soldiers on your side? I doubt it. I mean, just because the soldiers think that they're in a stupid war, they're not going to rebel against Tywin Lannister for that. But certainly the slaves and servants might.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Probably wouldn't amount to much other than more dead servants.
Probably. That's the nature of that kind of rebellion.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any chance to organise, to make a plan of it.
Right.
So it would be sort of spontaneous, and then it might catch fire and be successful, but more likely a small subset would do it and they'd all end up dead.
Yeah. If you could get the cooks on board and they could poison the food of the garrison, you might be able to...
Don't eat dinner on Tuesday.
Right, pass it along. Arya there's still plenty of Northmen in Harrenhal, and I don't know that she should entirely give up hope of connecting with one.
The real kicker for me about that is that the ones who are escaping are the ones who've been ransomed, and it wouldn't be that hard to just give one a note and say, give that to Robb Stark,
Right.
Right. But the ones who've been ransomed are the ones you can't really trust anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. It does. It seems like a really good opportunity to get word out to Robb if any more get ransomed, so far we've only seen the phrase, but if more deals get worked out, but it's risky, very risky if she mentions it to the wrong person.
Yeah. And we understand why she chose Chiswick for the first murder, but it is a waste. There are better targets she could aim. Pretty much everyone on her list, in fact.
Right. Yeah. Except for maybe Dunstan and Polliver.
Yeah, there are a couple of other throwaways there.
Right.
I would definitely check, see what Jaqen can do. All right, let's move up the chain here. But number 2, let's go Gregor Clegane.
That would be interesting. He'd be like, you got anybody else?
Number 3, I'm going Joffrey Baratheon straight away.
See, that's what I was wondering. What if she had chosen Cersei or Joffrey? Does he have to then get out of the Armory Lorch's group and go to King's Landing and kill Cersei and come back?
To me, he promised.
He did. Yeah. Say the word. Say the name.
If I were him and she said Cersei, I would say, are the other 2 close by? Because I'll do them first. And then,
right. Yes. Let's get an order.
Or are the 2 in King's Landing? Because I don't want to have to make this trip twice.
I'm not going to go to King's Landing, then come back, and then you send me back to King's Landing. Yeah. Yeah, you get why she chose Chiswick. She's a kid and she's emotional and angry, and that was a terrible story to hear.
Yeah. All right, let's draw a line under all this. As always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhal@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at ghostharrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Discord, where we lead, Danny DeVito follows. Have you seen that?
No.
He's advertising Discord. He's doing TV commercials for Discord.
Oh, how about that? Yeah.
Or I say TV in the most general sense.
He's doing commercials for Discord. Huh, I did not know that. Cool. See, you're up on these things.
The premise of the commercial being he doesn't know what the heck Discord is. So.
Oh, okay. Hey, that sounded like us when our Discord server was started.
And one of us still.
Before I say this part about the 5 leaving us a review, do you know on Apple Podcasts in the US, we got our first ever non-5-star rate? I know. Someone went out and left us a 2-star. Took our 5.0 down to 4.9. No review, no comment.
That's tough without a comment. You know what? We've gotten better. Stick with us. Listen to 10 episodes and then give us a 2-star.
Right. You got to give us a chance. We got to work out some kinks, man.
So yes, please leave us a non-2-star review.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind going out and leaving us a 5-star rate or a fantastic review, we certainly would appreciate that. And if you do, leave us a review. We might read it on a future episode.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.